Hey folks, Gene Jackson, Cheap Heat TV here, and I wanted to try something new for the channel, something fun. I've been a wrestling fan the majority of my life, and I've been collecting wrestling-related items for most of that time, and I've amassed a pretty decent collection. And a lot of people ask me questions about things I have and the stories behind them. So I thought it'd be fun to add a new show here to the channel, where each week or so I'll come on here and just show you a few items that I have, tell you a little bit about the backstory of them, and eventually make our way through the majority of the collection for the people who find it interesting. So, not going to be long, not going to show a bunch of stuff at any one time. We'll keep these pretty short and easy to digest. So, let's see what we got to look at in the collection here today. So, today I want to show you a couple items that are a few of my favorite things that I have in my collection that, might not mean much to most people, but for me, they kind of hold some special memories. So when I was a kid, early on, VCRs were very expensive. So back in the day, when a VCR run you 500-600 bucks, my family didn't have one, but ever so often we would rent one from the video store. And my parents would let me get a couple of wrestling tapes, and they would get a couple of movies, or my dad would get fishing videos or some such. And so the very first wrestling video that I ever rented as a kid, and I probably watched it 6 times or more over the weekend that we had it, was the Great American Bash 1986. Now, eventually, I bought this video cassette, and I started going to conventions probably 10, 11 years ago. And so I was able, eventually, going to the Greg Price NWA Legends conventions, to get this signed by several people who are prominent on the video. We'll start on the back here. We got Paul Jones signed it, and of course Paul Jones was involved in the match where Handsome Jimmy Valiant took on Shaska Watley in an infamous hair match where Shaska Watley ended up getting his head shaved. And of course we've got Tully Blanchard here has signed it. Tully Blanchard on this cassette was involved in the Take Fist match with Hands of Stone Ronnie Garvin. Now, here over to the front, right here, I was able to get this signed by J.J. Dillon, who of course is heavily involved as the manager of the Four Horsemen. Up here at the top, we've got Magnum T.A., who on this tape wrestled Nikita Koloff as part of the Best of 7 series for the United States Heavyweight title. Here we got a signature from Baby Doll, who teamed in a mixed 6-person tag match with Dusty Rhodes and Magnum TA against the Midnight Express and Jim Cornette inside of a steel cage. And of course they were heavily involved in the entire Bash 86 tour. And then right here in the middle, right over the picture of him and Ric Flair, is the man himself, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, signed this. And like I said, this was one of the first VHS wrestling tapes I ever rented, one of my all-time favorites. And getting to have Dusty and Magnum and Baby Doll, Tully, even Paul Jones and J.J. Dillon sign this. It's really cool, and it's honestly, there's a lot of other things in my collection that people, I'm sure, would argue that they think is a lot cooler and certainly more valuable. But this is absolutely one of my personal favorites right there. Another favorite, and so all the things I'm going to show you today, these for today's episode, is Jim Crockett Promotions, the Clamshell video cassettes. There's only 4 of them, and I've got all 4 here. So Starrcade 86, the Night of the Skywalkers. I was very fascinated at the concept of this event as a kid. So in 1986, I'm 9 years old. My little brother's being born that year in August. And as a young fan, the concept of the Road Warriors and the Midnight Express being up on a scaffold, just blew my mind. And of course, the promos with Animal and Hawk throwing the pumpkins off the scaffold with Bobby and Dennis's name on it and Cornette. Of course, in reality, as you grow up, you learn that scaffold matches are really terrible matches. There's not a lot of action. There's not a lot of stuff they can do up there. They're a lot better in theory than they are in practice. But this was another tape. And another thing about these two is I'd watch the show every Saturday night at 6:05, and they would run these commercials for these tapes. Great American Bash, Stark '86. I may even plug some of them in here at the end of this video. But right here for Stark '86, again, we'll start on the back. We got signature from J.J. Dillon, and again, this is more stuff that I got signed at Greg Price NWA Legends conventions in Charlotte over the years. But what I really, really like about this one is, again, this being famous for the Night of the Skywalkers, Cornette, Bobby went off, Dennis went off, but most famously, Cornette went off at the end, blew out both his knees. We've got Bobby Eaton, Dennis Condrey, and Jim Cornette have all signed the front of this, as well as, if I can get my hand over here, Tully Blanchard, as he took on Dusty Rhodes in the first blood match on this one. So again, this is another one that I really like, and is kind of special to me to have Bobby and Dennis and Cornette having all signed it. With them being such a huge part of this event, and especially with Bobby not being with us anymore. Another big favorite of mine. I also have Jim Crockett Senior Memorial Cup '87. I haven't got any signatures on this one yet. I plan to next convention or opportunity I get. I regret that I didn't get a chance. I got this tape after I met Dusty and Magnum. I did have an opportunity once to get Nikita and Lex Luger to sign it, but missed out on an opportunity. That's the story for another day. But I do eventually intend on trying to get this one signed. I have had an opportunity a couple times to get the Rock and Roll Express to sign it. I may do that. I mean, they're featured prominently on the cover, but due to injury, they weren't able to actually participate that weekend. Robert just came to the ring to announce that they wouldn't be involved. But I would like to get Magnum to sign it if I see him at a convention again, as this, of course, featured his return after the infamous, I guess I should say, car accident. It was the first public appearance. He came out, with the cane and supported Dusty and Nikita, who went on to win this one. So I would like to get, Magnum and Nikita perhaps to sign this if I get a chance, and I'm sure I will at some point. And last but not least, another favorite of mine, the Great American Bash 1987. The birth of the War Games. This would be the very first War Games match that took place. They had War Games 1 on the first night of the Great American Bash 87 tour, and then they had War Games 2 towards the end in Florida. I don't remember if it was the very last one, but it was definitely towards the end. On the back here, got a couple of referees signed it. And in Charlotte, we got Scrappy McGowan, famous Jim Crockett Promotions referee, as well as Tommy Young. Of course, he was a very prominent referee back in those days, so it's pretty cool to have his signature on there. Now, here on the front, I always love this cover, this animated version of the two teams that were in the War Games, of course, the Superpowers and the Road Warriors and the Four Horsemen. This kind of predates another one of my favorite event posters or video covers, whichever you want to say. Of course, being Royal Rumble 91 and 92, both, which I have posters of up here on the wall. I'll try to get a shot of those sometime. I don't feel like trying to turn the computer around. But this one always struck me as very cool. So on this one, we've got Tully Blanchard up here at the top, who, of course, was involved in the War Games, as well as a barbed wire ladder match against Dusty Rhodes. No, I'm not kidding. In 1987, Tully Blanchard and Dusty Rhodes had a barbed wire ladder match where a bag of money was hanging up above the ring, and Dusty won. So if you want to see Dusty Rhodes climb a ladder, this is the tape you want to see. We've also got Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson, the Rock and Roll Express, signed this one, and of course they wrestled the Midnight Express, as they would a lot of times on this video. J.J. Dillon signed this. Of course, he was involved in War Games 1. He got his shoulder injured, an ailment I understand that still plagues him to this day, and was the reason he was not able to be involved in War Games number 2. Dennis Condrey and Bobby Eaton signed this, and again, they met the Rock and Roll Express in here, and right here in the corner, Barry Windham signed it, and of course he wrestled. Barry Windham defended the Western States title against Rick Steiner on this one, I do believe. So, so there's like I say, just a few videotapes. I've got a pretty large collection of Coliseum videos that are signed, and we'll get around to looking at some of those here pretty soon. But I want to start with those because those, again, are just personal favorites of mine, just for, you know, sentimental reasons, because I have good memories of those events, of those videotapes, of renting them back in the day, and then eventually getting those tapes. Then, of course, getting to meet these guys and get them to sign them was pretty cool. So hope you enjoyed this. Like I say, I've got a lot more stuff in my collection. I'll be bringing it out a few items at a time, and just keep an eye out, keep checking back, and thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you find it interesting, because like I say, some of these items, some of the stories get a little stranger and a little more interesting of some of the people that I met to get some of these things signed. So we'll talk about a lot more of it moving forward, but for now, that ends the first episode of Gene's Wrestling Collection.